they go off. So this is one of our classrooms. This is a main veterinary technology classroom. And as you can see, we do use models in our teaching, and you're going to see more when we get down to the lab. We do have a protocol. It's called our IACUC, our IACUC. It's our animal use protocol, is what it is for us. And we have very strict rules about teaching on animals and using animals for research and that kind of thing, like how long an animal can be out of a kennel and how many times we can try to draw blood on an animal. So we have those very strict rules we have to stick by and still teach our students all the skills that they have to learn. But we use this classroom. Our students here at Brown Mackie, they take 4 days a week for 4 hours. They're in class. They have one subject a month, which for high school students, maybe that sounds easy, but it's not. It is a lot of information in 1 month to get through, but they all seem to do it. It's pretty amazing the amount of information they have to learn in a month. So that's our classroom. Do you want to answer questions right now or ask other questions?
Yeah, so like, what is your actual job?
Well, I have 2 jobs.
Okay.
This is my full-time job.
So teaching?
Teaching is full-time for me right now. And then I also practice at Weckel Pet Care 1 day a week. And then I fill in on some weekends for her too.
What's the pet care called?
Weckel,
Weckel?
W-E-C-K-E-L. Weckel Pet Care.
Okay, got that.
Okay. And that's mainly just a small animal practice.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you like most about your job?
The things I love are that it's different every single day. Not so much in teaching. I mean, that's different too. We teach a different subject every day. But as far as practice goes, it's never boring. There's always something new, and it's almost always very challenging. Even though I've been a veterinarian for almost 22 years, I see something new every day. I have to look something up every day. There's a new drug that came out. There's a new vaccine that came out. There's a new disease they discovered. So it's a constant learning cycle for me. But that's what kind of keeps it fun. It's not the same old thing every single day, and it could get boring if a job was like that. But veterinary medicine is not like that. The other thing is we have to think outside the box sometimes. You know, we might get a diagnosis and we know what the treatment is, but a lot of times our clients can't really afford the treatment that their animal really needs. So sometimes we have to think of different ways of doing things to solve problems that we have.
Another question is, why do you think your job is most important to the community today?
Well, as you might know, pets are really family members. And it is a very important job to be able to take care of someone's family member. Because people don't really look at their pets as a dog or a cat. They look at them, I mean, they will call them their children, or talk about themselves as the mom, or things like that. So you know they're so important to them. So I guess that makes me feel like it's pretty important that we take good care of that part of their family. The other thing with our profession is that we can donate our time. There are animals that don't have families, like at the animal shelter, who need veterinary care. So any chance I get, I take my students out there often. We'll go out there to draw blood samples and do heartworm tests for the dogs who need it, or do whatever the animal shelter needs. And it gives us a chance to see some pets there who are not healthy, and lets us help the animal shelter, at least let them know what needs to be done for those pets. So we can use our career kind of in a more of a volunteer for our society, for our community.
What are your thoughts on animal cruelty?
That it's horrible, or what can I do for animal cruelty? What do you mean specifically?
Like, if, say, animal comes in and you could clearly see that they've been abused? Like, what do you do in that type of situation?
Well, luckily I have a very good relationship with our animal shelter. And the animal shelter, the people who are employed there, they are all about animal welfare. That is why they do what they do. They're not there to write people tickets if their dog's not vaccinated for rabies. They're there to protect animals. So we would call the animal shelter and have to report that. And that is a sticky situation for me, honestly, because people, even if they've waited too long or let a disease process go on for too long, or maybe they dropped their puppy or kicked their animal and then their animal was injured, they have brought it to me for help. So at least they've done that part of their job. People have a lot of restraints when it comes to animal care. Some people don't have enough money to take care of their animals, so it puts the people in a difficult situation, it puts me in a difficult situation. It can put the animal shelter in a difficult situation too. And truthfully, all my years in practice, I've really only seen one case of true animal abuse. And that was not the owner's fault if someone else did something to that dog and the owner brought them, in for help. So it's not been very often that I've had to do that, but I know it certainly goes on, probably more than I know. There is a big push right now in veterinary medicine regarding animal welfare. There has just been a new specialty created for veterinarians. Some veterinarians are surgeons, some are ophthalmologists. There is a new specialty just for animal welfare. So it is for those veterinarians who are very interested in animal welfare and shelter medicine, and taking care of those animals and really investigating abuse cases and that kind of thing.
Yeah, so is there like an actual law going against like the animal cruelty?
There are some different laws in place, and every state has their own law. But yes, there's been a movement in the United States to move animals from an animal, like an ownership, to more of a family member status. So they have more protection. Or there can be more done to people who do abuse animals, because animals have been moved up to that kind of status as far as what they're considered. Which is good. Their life matters too, right? Mm-hmm. And their quality of life.
That's it, yeah. What else do you think we could do to help these animals?
Well, I would say continued legislation is important, and make sure that those laws are upheld and that they follow those laws, when there are animal cruelty cases. Just more education in general. I think it's getting much better, at least as far as small animals go. The other area of animal welfare that's certainly makes the news a lot is production animals. So those animals, cattle and pigs and sheep, animals that are raised for a product, whether it's meat or wool or milk, and what's their quality of life. So that's another aspect that's very important. And I would say from my experience, the places that I have been, at least we visit a dairy twice a year. I take my students just so they can see how a dairy runs and that kind of thing. And those cows have an awesome life. They usually live an average of 8 to 10 years, which is a long life for a cow. And they have freedom. They're not locked in a head catch and they have to just eat and drink all day. They can go out and lay in the pasture if they want to. They can come in if they want to. So, some of the videos maybe that you've seen online about animal abuse, and there's been a lot in the dairy industry in particular. Obviously it exists out there. I have not personally witnessed that either. I mean, the places I've gone treat their animals pretty well, pretty spoiled. But I know it exists. But as long as that industry has a demand, as long as there are people out there who want to eat steak, we are going to be raising cattle for production of steaks. That's just the way it's going to be. So whether we do just have to make everything, or do everything possible to give them the best quality of life when they're being raised for that purpose, for our lives. So some of that is not happening right now. Feedlots, not a very great way for animals to live. But it's changing. People are speaking up and saying, we want to see different things. That's why you see some of that or grass-fed beef rather than grain-fed beef. Because in a feedlot, they're fed as much as they can, as quickly as they can, so they'll grow as fast as they can, so they can be slaughtered as soon as they can. But with a grass-fed type of beef, they're sent out to pasture and they eat and they have a life and they have sunshine, and they're pretty happy during their lives. That's really what they know. They know to eat and sleep, and that's really all they do. So those movements, and cage-free eggs, cage-free chicken, free-range chicken, those sorts of things that you're starting to hear about, those products that are available, that's all consumer-driven. So the more the consumer can do to talk about what kind of products they want to see on the shelf that relates to the life of the animal, the life that animal lived, I think that our society is moving towards that, which relates to better animal welfare, animal keeping.
How do you stay up to date with veterinary medicine?
Well, we are required to get continuing education every year. We're required 20 hours a year, which is not hard to get. We can go to a conference and get 20 hours within a few days. But it's also, I don't know if you can see over here, you see all those black tubs over there with all those magazines? Those are journals that I receive in the mail. I bring them here so the students can look at them too and use them, but journals are an excellent way too, just to stay up to date. And there are lots of websites. Some of those journals are also online, so I can read things online. You can take tests online. You can do case studies online. There's a lot of continuing education out there. So it is a requirement for a veterinarian to keep their license to get that continuing education. Because like I said earlier, it's constantly changing. And if you don't keep up with it, then you're not current in your practice, and that's a problem.
What made you decide to be a veterinarian?
Well, lots of things. Of course, I think a lot of people when they're young and if they have pets, that's just what you want to do. I mean, it seems a very natural thing to want to grow up and take care of animals. So I did go through that when I was younger. When I was in high school, I actually thought I might go to medical school. I love science and I loved math, and I thought I might. I kind of wanted to be an anesthesiologist, which now I'm glad I didn't do that. But when I got to the point of thinking of actually working on people, I didn't think I could do that. So veterinary medicine, I kind of went back to my beginning dream and did that, and I knew kind of middle of high school that that's what I really wanted to do. But the other thing that helped me is I volunteered in a vet clinic for 2 years before they finally gave me a paying job. And that just gave me a good insight to what veterinary medicine really was, because people think it's all puppies and kittens, but it's not. So, just medicine in general is interesting to me. And like I said before too, just the challenge of it, that things are different every day. So it was exposure to it early on. And the other thing that helped me decide was I went to the open house at K-State. I don't know if you guys have ever been there before, but oh wow. It was when I was in college, because my two sisters went with me too, and they had so many experiments and just things they were showing and doing that pretty much solidified that for me.
Just do this question. What is the most difficult situation you've been faced with since you got in veterinary medicine, and how did you handle it?
Well, I've had a lot of tough times, but I'll tell you that the majority of them all come down to finances. I've had challenging cases out there, but the most difficult part of veterinary medicine is when you know there's something that can help a pet and the owner can't afford to do it. And a lot of times they try to take that back on us, and we'll hear a lot of times, don't you love animals? Why won't you do this for free? Well, I have bills to pay too. I have to pay my staff. I have to pay for the medicine that I would use to treat your dog. I have to pay for the IV catheter I would put into your pet. So, people don't see veterinary medicine like that. But it is a business. So that's a tough aspect for it sometimes because, of course, we want to help every animal that comes through the door. But sometimes their owners put that kind of limit on us when they can't take care of their pet. We could, but they have a hard time doing that. So we have to figure out a way to help them without bankrupting them. We do try to offer, there's a great credit card that's called Care Credit. People can apply for, and they pay the bill at our clinic, and then they pay the credit card company, but it's 0 interest as long as they pay their minimum payment. Which is great because other credit card companies charge a lot of interest. So Care Credit has been a lifesaver for veterinary medicine as long as people have good credit, they can get approved for it. So I've gotten into debates with people. Some people think every person should be able to have a pet. What do you guys think of that?
Well, it depends on if they have specific allergies or not.
Yes.
Because I'm kind of allergic to cats, but I try my best to be around them, and I understand that people can be uncomfortable around them because they sometimes don't use the same communication as we do.
Right.
But I do see that it would be good for them to be around us. That way we can understand more of their body language.
Sure, yeah, you certainly learn that.
Well, I'm allergic to cats, but if everyone had a pet or something, they needed to be they be able to provide for it. It's
right.
Not just about them with the pet, I love my dog, but you have to be able to support your pet
right.
too.
So here's some situations. So I've had people go out and buy a puppy for $1,000. They buy a purebred puppy, and then the puppy gets sick. They didn't vaccinate the puppy. They didn't bring it in for an exam when they bought it, and now they don't have any money to treat it when it's sick. That's a really frustrating situation. Or where people, their pets have 10 different outfits, or those things that we do to spoil our pets, but yet they can't afford the vaccines to prevent disease in their pets. So those are really frustrating things in veterinary medicine. So I would love for people to have an emergency fund just for their pets. If you're going to have a dog or a cat or any animal, set aside a little bit every month, because then when something does happen, you can take care of them. So just having that emergency fund is a great way to prevent that conflict or prevent the owners feeling guilty because they can't take care of their pet.
And then the last question is, what are some of your ideas that we could use for our website, for fundraising?
Yeah, because
Where are you wanting to donate money?
For the animal shelter, that way they can have more care as well, and they can have the medicine they need. And aren't there animals that sometimes get abused and then they have to go to the animal shelter?
Sometimes, yes. Or that their owners, I don't know what the most common thing is at the animal shelter, you might have to ask. Probably the most common reason animals come is because of behavior problems. It starts out that people choose the wrong dog for their family in the first place. Like an Australian Shepherd is not happy in a kennel in a house. They're very smart dogs and they're active and they need to be out being challenged all the time. So behavior problems are really the main reason animals are given up at a shelter. But as far as taking them because of abuse, that's usually because people have too many animals and don't take care of them, like hoarding animals. And when the animal shelter does find those, when they find those things out and they go into their home and it's just filthy and, you know, they don't have food for them, and then they will take those animals away from that person. But they try their very best to educate people and keep pets with their owners. But when those owners are abusing them by not taking care of them, then the animal shelter will take them away from them. But so many more times, it's the people surrendering their pet because usually of behavior issues, or they just can't afford them, or they're moving and don't want to take their animal. It's another reason people give up their pets. So I know, it's hard to believe, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it happens. Mm-hmm.
So like.
So for fundraising. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, have you guys heard of the Friends of the Shelter here in Salina?
Not really.
They are a volunteer group who work at the animal shelter, and they are a fantastic group of people. They foster animals. So, you know, the animal shelter, you might walk into the cat room and they might have 8 or 10 cats there. Well, there are probably 30 to 60 other cats that are being housed by these volunteers at the animal shelter because the shelter doesn't have enough room. So rather than putting those animals to sleep, they find foster homes for them. So the Friends of the Animals Shelter, if you could find a way to help them, that would be very beneficial. For us, for our school, we volunteer twice a year when it works out for us. We help them at their dog wash. Have you ever seen signs that the shelter's having dog wash?
I think I've heard of dog washes.
Yeah.
So the animal shelter, the Friends do all the bathing, and I take my students. We do nail trims, and we clean ears, and we do some other things to help them. And that helps raise money for the Friends of the Shelter. I think we always raise at least $1,000 for them by helping with that dog wash. And then they can buy things like flea and tick prevention. They can pay for veterinary care. So hooking up with the Friends of the Shelter would be a great way. Organizing any other sort of like dog walk, you know, like a half marathon, not a half marathon, maybe like a 5K or something like that, where people can actually bring their dogs and walk their dogs, and you could raise money that way too. There are so many things like that in Salina that are very popular as far as people doing it, but not a whole lot of them with, you know, bring your dog and go on a dog walk for a fundraiser.
We were thinking of doing like a animal food donation to the shelter.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't do like something with like money or anything in school, so we're thinking something like that, but that could also be another idea.
Mm-hmm. So even holidays are a great time to do that. You know, there are lots of people who like to do charitable things like that during the holidays. So the thing to do though would be to find out from the animal shelter what type of food they would like, because animals don't do well when they switch from one diet to another. So if you can find out what the animal shelter likes to feed, that would be a way to do that. But they also need towels and blankets and pillows and toys and things like that. So you could also just ask for donations for things like that. And I know they'd appreciate those sorts of things. On the animal shelter website, I think they have a wish list also on their website. So just even organizing a place for people to bring their donations to you so that then you could take them to the shelter for those animals. Be good. So their website's really good. It does usually have, like I said, that list, that things that they really need, you know.
Can you take pictures for the website?
Sure.
Okay.